It didn't happen overnight. No screaming, no slammed doors, no dramatic "I'm leaving you" moment. Their marriage didn't shatter. It faded. Quietly. Like a candle burning low in a room no one bothered to check anymore. And if you had looked at them from the outside, you would have said they were fine, stable, normal, maybe even lucky. Years together. A home, shared responsibilities, familiar routines. But inside that home, something important had already died. Not love, not completely. Just the connection. The warmth. The feeling of being seen. And that's how it happens for most couples. Not with chaos, but with silence. He would come home tired. She would already be distant. Conversations turned into logistics. Did you pay the bill? What are we eating? Did you call them? They stopped asking each other deeper questions a long time ago, because somewhere along the way, they both started believing the same lie. What's the point? She felt invisible. He felt unwanted. But neither said it out loud. Because saying it would make it real. So instead, they lived like polite strangers who knew each other's habits, but not each other's hearts. Anymore. Nights became the hardest. They lay in the same bed, inches apart. But emotionally, it felt like miles. No touching. No laughter. No late night conversations. Just the soft glow of phone screens lighting up two separate worlds. And here's the truth no one talks about. Silence is more dangerous than fighting. Because when couples fight, at least they still care enough to react. But when the silence comes, it means they've started to give up. And that's exactly where they were. Giving up? Slowly. Without ever admitting it. She missed how he used to look at her, like she was the only person in the room. He missed how she used to laugh at his dumb jokes like they were the funniest thing she had ever heard. They both missed each other. But neither knew how to come back. So they stayed stuck. Days turned into months. Months into years. And the distance grew so normal that it stopped feeling like a problem and started feeling like life, until one moment changed everything. It wasn't planned. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't even big, but it was real. And sometimes real is more powerful than perfect. It happened on an ordinary evening. The kind of evening they had lived 1,000 times before. He came home late again. She didn't ask why. Dinner was already cold. They ate in silence. No eye contact. No conversation. Just the sound of cutlery against plates. After dinner, he sat on the couch scrolling through his phone. She stood in the kitchen a little longer than necessary, staring at nothing. And then something strange happened. She didn't go to the bedroom. She didn't turn on the TV. She didn't distract herself like she always did. Instead, she walked into the living room and she just stood there. He didn't notice at first. But when he did, he looked up, confused. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't hide. Her voice wasn't angry. It wasn't loud. It was something far more powerful. It was honest. I feel like I've lost you. Silence filled the room. But this time, it was different. This wasn't the empty silence they were used to. This silence had weight. Meaning. Truth. He opened his mouth, then closed it again, because deep down, he knew she was right. And that's when something shifted, not in the room, but inside him, because those words didn't come with blame. They came with vulnerability, And vulnerability has a way of breaking through walls that anger never can. For a moment, he saw her again, not as his wife, not as part of his routine, but as a person who was hurting, a person who still cared enough to speak. And something in his chest tightened, because he realized something he had been avoiding for years. He missed her too, but he didn't know how to say that, so he did something he hadn't done in a long time. He put his phone down, fully, no distractions, no escape. And he looked at her, really looked. Her tired eyes, the quiet strength in her posture, the pain she had been carrying alone. And, for the first time in years, he didn't defend himself. He didn't explain. He didn't justify. He just said, "I feel like I've lost you too." That moment, that simple, raw, unfiltered truth, changed everything, because in that moment, they stopped being opponents and became two people on the same side again. No grand gestures, no dramatic promises, just honesty, and honesty is where healing begins. They sat down together, not as husband and wife with expectations, but as two human beings trying to find their way back. The conversation wasn't perfect. There were pauses. There were tears. There were moments where they didn't know what to say. But for the first time in a long time, they were trying. She told him how lonely she had been. How she felt like she was disappearing in her own marriage. He told her how he felt like nothing he did was ever enough. How he started withdrawing because it felt safer than failing. And suddenly, things made sense. Not in a way that erased the pain, but in a way that explained it. And that changed everything. Because understanding replaces assumptions. And assumptions are what slowly destroy relationships. They realized something powerful that night. They were never enemies. They were just two people hurting in silence, waiting for the other to notice. And once that silence broke, everything else became possible. Over the next few weeks, nothing magically fixed itself. There were still awkward moments, still habits that didn't change overnight. Still days where they slipped back into old patterns, but something was different. They were aware. They were present. They were trying. He started asking her simple questions again. How was your day? Not out of obligation, but with genuine curiosity. She started responding with more than just fine. They began sharing small pieces of themselves again. And those small pieces began rebuilding something bigger. Connection. He reached for her hand one evening. It felt unfamiliar. Almost strange. But she didn't pull away. That mattered. She laughed at something he said a few days later. It wasn't forced. It just happened. That mattered too. Little. Moment by moment. They started finding each other again. Not the same people they were before, but something deeper. More aware, more intentional. Because here's the truth most people don't realize. You don't fall out of love overnight, and you don't fall back into it overnight either. It's built or rebuilt in the smallest moments, the ones most people ignore. A look, a question, a touch, a moment of honesty. And the more they showed up for those moments, the stronger their connection became. One night, weeks later, they found themselves sitting together. Again. Same couch, same room. But everything felt different. The distance was gone. Not completely, but enough to feel hope again. She rested her head on his shoulder. Something she hadn't done in years. And he didn't freeze. He didn't overthink. He just let it happen. And in that quiet moment, they both felt it, not passion, not intensity, but something even more powerful, peace, the kind of peace that comes from knowing you're not alone anymore. And that's when they realized it wasn't one big moment that saved their marriage, It was the courage to be honest in that one moment. That allowed all the other moments to follow, because most relationships don't fail because of lack of love. They fail because of lack of communication, lack of vulnerability, lack of courage to say, I miss you. I'm hurting. I need you. And the longer those words stay unspoken, the deeper the distance becomes, until one day it feels impossible to bridge. But here's the hope. It's not impossible, It just takes one moment, one real moment, to start changing everything. Not perfectly, not instantly, but powerfully, So if you feel like your relationship is slipping into silence, don't wait for things to magically fix themselves. They won't, be the one who speaks, even if your voice shakes, even if you don't have the perfect words. Because perfect words don't save relationships. Honest ones do. That one moment of truth might feel small, but it could be the beginning of everything coming back to life. And if this story made you feel something, if it reminded you of your own relationship, or something you've been avoiding saying, then don't ignore that feeling. Because sometimes the difference between a relationship ending and a relationship healing is just one honest moment. And maybe that moment is waiting for you, right now.